Yep, we'll just go ahead and put that in there and let all these nasty little things make all kinds of noise. Hello, everybody. This is Frogman. Welcome back to FTB Skies or FTB Skies or whatever you want to call it about it. I was just going to start out in the nether because I kind of remodified the system in here to make it do the things that we needed it to do. So we'll stick our head in very quickly. I went ahead and made a bunch of vector plates so that we can get those in there and the so we can at least kind of make this work a little bit better. And there is now a mob masher sitting behind this mess with a few other things. So we've been kind of busy picking a few things up. I've managed to get a few abilities going, and we've been managing to get a couple of things going. But I just wanted to kind of step in here really quickly to make sure I didn't leave anything of any good use for the moment. We'll have some fun with these later on and see if we've gotten anything really good lately. So I've been a little busy in between episodes. Turn that off because I don't want to have to be picking things up. Sorry for the noise. I was just trying to put a few things away here. I think we're good to go back into the overworld for the second. We'll talk about him in a little bit too, but let's pop back in where it's reasonably quiet. So we've been a fair amount of busy. In the last episode, we did a few things. We got our steam boiler up and running, and it is now up there kind of being taken care of by this, and we've got a few more things going. And as you notice, I've kind of, well, scraped up some of this stuff, and there's some noises up there, and we've been doing some stuff. I've been playing. Been having a little bit of fun, but I've been playing. So we're going to have to kind of talk about some of the stuff that I've done. So again, I did upgrade that system in there to a mob masher. So mob masher is one of the simplest things in the world to go after killing things with. Again, once you have enough parts, there's no reason not to be killing things with this, especially considering the fact that you can add, say, sharpness to it for a little bit and luck to it for a little bit, to the point that like one Enderman, when it dies, gives you like 10 eyes or 5 eyes or something like that. The beauty of having that in the Soul Sand Valley like that is the fact that Endermen will spawn in Soul Sand Valleys as well as wither skeletons. So we've got that covered. We don't have to worry about those so much anymore, and we can kind of move on forward. Plus gas, I believe there's like 3 or 4 mobs that will continuously spawn all the time in that particular area. So last episode we were just finishing up with the ability to make some parts, and we're going to go take a look at those parts just in a second once we go upstairs, as well as over here. One thing I did want to comment on very quickly before I got too stupidly deep into it is one of the kind of a really quick simple things to do about this little process that I've always kind of hated about this setup with Botania is if you don't have a reasonably decent block placer or item dropper that is capable of being controlled by redstone, a smart shoot from Create. So smart shoot here really quickly, which we're going to get into this because we've had to kind of play with some of this stuff. So a smart shoot is a chute, a brass sheet, and an electron tube. Electron tubes we haven't talked about yet. We're going to be talking about them very soon because of the fact we've had to make a few things that have to deal with electron cubes. Electron tubes are rose quartz, which you craft with nether quartz, redstone dust, and then you take this cool little process where you have to rub it between, well, your right hand and your left hand to get a polished crystal. Well, this is capable of being controlled by redstone. So if you stick some kind of an inventory on top of here and you drop some stuff in it, it will drop something directly underneath of it. And if you drop it on this is kind of my favorite way to do this kind of a setup when it comes to these, once you get to that point. So it'll drop a single item, drop it down there, and let that single item sit there and float on that thing until one of these endo flames picks it up. And, well, once it picks it up, it'll drop another one. And that's generally how I like to automate this setup when it comes to Botania. So we are going to be coming back to Botania. We're at a point upstairs now that I think we can start looking at doing some other mods because I've been a little busy. But give me my stuff back. You don't need to sit there and waste that. I need to bring some coal back. Give me it. They hold a couple, but anyhow, chutes are very interesting things because chutes, you can use them to push things downwards, and if you stick an encased fan on the bottom of them, they'll push things upwards. So it's a kind of a neat little idea, although there's some other stuff to kind of play with. But again, we've kind of scrubbed the whole area down here completely apart. I don't think there was anything else down here. We'll talk about that in a second too. I'm going to have to go get some parts. Animals, whatnot, things we've been growing wherever, and I did go ahead and buy a couple of jungle saplings so that I could get the vines because, well, vines are how you're going to get mossy cobblestone, and mossy cobblestone is a way of doing things. So don't fall through the hole. As we move on doing things, we're going to start working on building some mob farms and some other stuff down here. So this is ground floor, ground on the bottom, and it's kind of how we've done a couple of things as far as things go. And if you're wondering why we can see, it's because I've been getting lots of things. Again, I'll have another visitor. There's been a lot of mimic chests that have been showing up, giving us all kinds of random goodies to the point that I theoretically don't need a pickaxe anymore, and I can do some serious damage, and we have more health plus fire damage or whatever, all the kinds of fun things. I did go ahead and build an advanced magnet just because an advanced magnet has the ability to be programmable. I guess we can actually dig this out. You can kind of change a couple of things. So it's got an item filter to allow you to decide whether or not you want to pick things up. Plus, it'll allow you to change how far things can be picked up from. So I've got it set on 8 for right now just because it's kind of 11 is quite a ways away to go at times, so you kind of have to pay attention to it. And it has the ability to be shut off. So if I turn it on and off, I don't have to worry about it. Now I think the other one that we had, I think it's going to be in here. I believe this one has a shift M key to turn it on and off, but this one's not nearly as good as the other one is because it kind of sits there and thinks about things. So a little bit of ratatouille so that we can get our nourishment. And you, sir, come here. You don't need to stay down here. You'll get eaten. Apparently it's raining again. Oh, yeah. And another thing I did is I toggled off the events thing. So event toggle bees, this one right here, because I'm getting really tired of the bees and they're all over the place, and due to, I guess, a vanilla bug, they don't die in the void. They just sit there. So I may have to go handle them in creative, or I may just go, once we get a jetpack or a little bit of creative flight, go deal with that. So that's a thing we can do with those guys. So we've actually had quite a few other things, like I've gotten some feral claws and the umbrella and a bunch of other fun, neat stuff. So I guess let's go back up top and get ready for the holy cow. I did go ahead, since we ended up making a whole bunch of ender pearls, make a bunch of elevators so that we can kind of get back and forth up and down. I am not as decided totally whether or not we're going to be leaving these here yet or not, but yeah, we'll see. Okay, so yeah, it's raining. We're gonna have to sleep. The reason why I wanted mossy cobblestone is because I wanted one of those things to kind of play with it, and this is going to be kind of the really really stupid fast way of making things happen. So, what's neat about a block breaker from Cyclic is they insta break things that you put in front of them to include obsidian. So if you notice, all of this is gone, all of our dripstone, all of our cauldrons, all that stuff is gone because I needed to make a bunch of obsidian. And then I got to the point where upstairs we have everything working a little better. So that thing, block breaker, this is one of those deals where, you stare at it for a minute and you go, I can't make that, I can't make that, I can't make that, I can't make that. Just break it. Breaker. This guy right here. You can't make it, you can't make it, can't make it because it requires mossy cobblestone slabs. Mossy cobblestone slabs are made with something along those lines. So how do you get vines? Well, the quickest way to get vines is through our little friend over here that we took down, the market. If you put the market down, you can buy with, a couple of emeralds, some of those jungle saplings, and jungle saplings will then give you vines that you can do various other things with. So yeah, there's no reason not to be able to get into one of those very, very, very quickly. And had I thought about it a little bit more, we might have done our cobblestone that way. But we're having a little bit of fun. Anyhow, let's go upstairs. We'll talk about this in a little bit. And as you see, there are shafts running down through the ceiling. So be prepared. I have been very busy. To the point that I moved everything up here and we've been starting to fiddle around with some other mods. Can I sleep this off? No. Beautiful. All right, so I went ahead and did a little bit more modification to the steam boiler, steam thingy, steam setup so that we now have 16 engines. And, well, yeah, it's doing pretty good for the most part. I don't know why it's not letting me see it again. This, every time you take these things out of their slots, at least these out of this slot, sometimes it'll, there we go. Okay. Sometimes I just have to flop them, but whatever. Sometimes every time you take them out of your slots for whatever reason, which I had to do a little bit ago because I had them over here. I don't know what it is about reloading the game and back and forth. Sometimes going in between dimensions, you have problems. But we have the ability to make almost 300,000 stress units with this one system. And I did go ahead and make it to the max capacity, which is like, they're stupid tall. So because of that, we can run 16 steam engines. So I decided to stick 8 on either side with a stress meter so we can see what's going on. That flywheel is purely decorative. It's there mainly just so I can kind of enjoy it and, you know, do whatever. And then we've kind of run the rest of the system up here. So yeah, I've been a little busy, and the reason why I'm saying I've been a little busy is because essentially what I've done is I've taken everything that we should have had access to, at least to this point, up to a couple of other little projects or things that we haven't had, and I've put them into place. So we're going to talk about some of this stuff as we move on, and that's my little stupid pet that will just not, for whatever reason, go away. But anyhow, and I don't know how I've managed to catch a whole bunch of loot bees in that thing. They just, I guess they get bored and go right into the back of the hives over there. But anyhow, so starting with the process, essentially what we're doing again is we're heating water, turning it into steam, making it into steam power, and then we're using things to translate the power throughout this top section, at least this floor. So as we need to add more stuff, or as I find the need to add more things, like we're currently making some stuff right now, we'll just keep adding more things to this floor, and if I need to, I can go up, or I can go down the sides, or I can do whatever. So currently the system is split in half, so we're sending half of that 300,000 one direction, half the other direction. And as we can see right here, we've managed to use a good, I don't know, 30,000 stress units on this side just to be able to get something done. So what happens is we have line shafts that run all over the place, all the way through the entire deal, to belts running down to speed controllers. This is going to be the first thing we're going to talk about because these things are fantastic, and if you are not using them, you need to get to using them. They are a brass casing with a precision mechanism, and a precision mechanism requires a bunch of deployers we haven't talked about yet because I've been too busy just playing. Deployers, again, required some of those electron tubes as well as a brass hand, which means we had to start smashing things. So we can run over here really quick and I'll show you the little quick section. So this is the interaction area where we can kind of just do things as we need to do things. But a deployer, basically what you do is you take that piece of gold, use on you, not use, R, take a piece of gold plate with a bunch of cogwheels, and notice how it says 5 times. You have to repeat the sequence 5 times. Well, this requires 3 deployers in a row. So we set them in a row, we give the cogwheels to the hoppers that we need, and this one still has a bunch of stuff in it, so it is what it is. And then you just kind of let it run around, and it ends up over there. You bring it back over here until it's done. Once you get those done, you get these really, really neat little toys that are these that you can use for various things. So train controls, mechanical arms, and rotational speed controllers. Rotational speed controllers are fantastic because it gets rid of all the silly little gear interchanges that we've been doing up until now, because you just put a large cogwheel in it and then spin this or spin this, and then you can change the output of whatever you're doing right there, even backwards, which is really nice if you end up with something that's running the wrong way, and it makes life a lot easier. So getting that set up was one of the first priorities I needed because it makes the area a lot cleaner. So we'll go back over here and we can kind of take a look at that. That speed controller is taking care of this main belt plus a whole lot of other things. So the first thing it's dealing with, again, is a cobblestone generator that is currently being plugged into and filling item vaults. Item vaults, again, another one of these deals, not terribly expensive. The only problem with an item vault is that you can't access them with your hands. You have to access them with funnels or other means. I guess funnels are the only ones that we can actually access them with. But anyhow, the system is pretty much, well, automagical at this point because of the fact that there's another cool little thing that I found, which is the redstone links. These right here. This, again, once we get those brass casings, once we get brass ingots, we get all kinds of cool stuff. This is stupid cheap for redstone wireless redstone, basically. And what's really cool about the wireless redstone is it's channel based, and the channels are based off of how you want to make them work. So essentially what I can do over here is I can tell anything in the general area that it can kind of hook into some stuff just by the channel that it puts on. And to even make that even further, we have these stockpile switches, which are technically a content observer, but a stockpile switch, again, if I do this to here, just a couple a little bit more toys here. What a content observer does is it reads the content of an inventory and outputs a signal or whatever. What a stockpile switch will do is it'll allow you to control when you're going to emit a signal or not. And it's kind of like some of the other stuff. Like I think there's something in RF tools for that. RF tools. It's an inventory checker. I believe an inventory checker will do the exact same kind of thing, except that this is a little slightly more expensive. It's not nearly as bad, but again, I'm playing with the mod. I'm kind of learning how to make the mod work, and I want to kind of have fun with the mod. And so what we're basically doing here as far as the cobblestone is going, and every single thing down this line, is that we're taking I guess an action, which is here the drilling and collection of cobblestone. We're plumbing that into an item vault, and that item vault is then being monitored by a stockpile switch to tell when this needs to turn back on. So like right now it's off because we have 4,500 cobblestone, and it's supposed to wait until it gets here. Now this is a little bit of an interesting way to do things. So this is the top section for when the redstone is off, at least for this point right now. I could invert the signal, but essentially this is my upper level of where the stock is supposed to be. So what it does is it sits here and sits here and sits here and sits here until it hits this line, and then it drops down here until it gets down to here until we've used up enough of the stock that it hits this line. And this is the indicator for when it moves. So it's kind of it's an interesting way of doing things, I guess, at this point. But again, that's the first time I've ever seen something that works along this kind of a deal. Works very interesting. I'd show you, but I'd end up screwing up all my numbers. So what we do with all of that is, well, given the fact that I have stockpile, we should be able to now. We then tell it via a couple of channels using andesite belt funnels, because I have to kind of output things at a speed that does not over choke some of the further things down the line. So what we do then is say this one right here, this one with the 2 gravel, is controlled by this stockpile container, which is looking at that item vault that is working through this millstone that is creating cobblestone. And it basically says, yeah, granted, I could have just run this over here and just turned this one on, but it's kind of one of those, there's some funkiness that does happen, and I've been having some problems with overwriting of things. So technically this redstone link powers that block behind it. So if you have a block sitting next to it or something along those lines, it'll also power. It's kind of annoying. It's the same old Minecraft problem where stuff kind of powers stuff sideways, and you don't really want to fool with that. So that's why this is down here. It used to be up there, and I was having problems with this one turning this one on or something like that. But anyhow, this allows us several channels to be able to run things out of that item vault onto this belt and then be offered up to the rest of the system. And I'm explaining this here because once we get down to the rest of the line, it's pretty much self-explanatory because it's pretty much the same thing. The first thing we make out of the cobblestone, of course, is gravel. And again, gravel, we just pick it up with a funnel, shove it into that millstone. That millstone, once it's finished, puts stuff into the item vault and does the exact same thing on a bunch of different channels. The next step is, again, we make sand, and well, sand does a couple other things the same way. Now this is me kind of goofing around, and I can probably make this a heck of a lot simpler because of how things work, but I didn't want to accidentally, there's just some things we're using later on down the line that you're going to see here in a second. So there's a reason why there's wireless for these and wireless not down there, because of the fact that I didn't want to try to run redstone over the top of these millstones. So this just basically can take care of itself. Once we're done creating the stock that we need, we come over here and we make sure that we shut these funnels off, as noted by the little redstone line behind them. They just shut off so that they're not picking up stuff, which allows things further on down the line, as we're seeing the cobblestone go by, pick things up. So that's done. So we've got gravel, sand, and dust. Gravel, sand, and dust are all created automatically into the system so that they take care of various things. We then move down to, this is just an extra overload, run things out of the way deal. So then we move down to the next kind of a process, which is, well, what can I make with this stuff that I've got here? So we have our cobble works, or this is all technically, I guess, a cobble works at this point. So in this system right here, we're using the blast furnace function from the RF2, or not the RF tools, the encased fan. Encased fan. This guy, we've already played with it, or we were looking at it a while ago, several episodes ago. If you take lava and you run, I'm going to have to find it, but like we can do slag or cobblestone, or just, this is your basic bulk smelting capability to get some kind of thing to some kind of something else. So, well, like stone. What we're doing here, if I do it this way, cobblestone into stone, you drop it right there, and it's a free smelting capability. So again, we pick things up, and I'm using the item vault here just because it's a good way to get things from one point to another. Drops it into there after it gets 8 or so of the items into this little area, and after like a couple of seconds, it's not even really all that slow, which is what's amazing about it. It drops, they pop, the funnel right there picks it up and puts it into that item vault. And again, we're looking at various things. We're also doing a little bit more redstone here, and this is where some more logic is coming in. That logic block is a very handy block because it allows you to make AND gates very, very, very quickly. So it's a little bit expensive, and I can do it with other mods, but I figured I'd do it this way. This is when we first start looking at the next thing that I discovered that I'm really, really, really enjoying, which is the redstone pen mod, or the redstone ped mod. This is an interesting way of doing redstone wires. So redstone wires, as you normally would do, you just, lay down redstone, but it won't go uphill, and it will touch things all over the place that it's not supposed to touch. To use this, you just plop it down on the thing and kind of draw your lines where you want to go. What's really nice about it is it'll go uphill or stick to the bottom of a block. And if you want to, say, make something to where it's going to make the block underneath of it or above it, and I accidentally hit that because of whatever. You just put another dot of redstone down on it, and then it will power the block underneath of it or next to it or whatever to be able to turn a thing off like this. So as you can see right there as we're looking at it, it says that direction. It's beautiful. It works great. I love it. So it's just literally picking up the signal from that thing, running across over here and turning off this so that it doesn't pick up anything else. Love it. Anyhow, we'll just move on forward, but you'll be able to see a little bit more of what we're doing with it right over here. So from here, we say, okay, cobblestone's done. What's next? Well, we can make glass, and we can make soul sand, and we can make clay, and we can make nether quartz out of all of the stuff that we have right here. So again, glass, simple, same old function. We're just smelting sand into glass. In here, in order to make soul sand right here, we have to use a soul fire, and they do the exact same kind of thing. That's called haunting, which is, I guess, interesting. That's dirt into soul soil. Where is it? That one right there. Sand into that makes soul sand. Well, soul sand's a quick, easy way of getting nether quartz, which we're going to do down there, but I decided again to just do something silly and do a little bit of a washing process here in order to make clay. So once again, we're looking at that encased fan, and encased fan on washing sand in just kind of had some water blown on it, I guess, makes clay ball at a 25% chance. So this is where we're going to start seeing losses in things. It's a 25% chance to be able to make clay. Again, I don't really know how much clay I wanted, and I really probably need to remove you because you're in the wrong place. That's fine. So going back to the redstone here, all of this stuff, all of these 3 things right here are all sand related. So because they're all sand related, I run the stuff down over to an ugly wall with another logic plugged into that redstone link that's over there to turn that sand system on and off. So that means at any given time, if any one of these lines right here, I think we have it set to, all of them have to be on in order for this to be able to receive a redstone signal. That means at any given time, and any one of these will turn on, this will turn off, which will turn that off, which will turn the sand on over there and allow any one of these right here to eat the sand they need. So that's how that one works. Down here, we're making, whoop, I didn't want to do that. Put this away before you accidentally put things around. If you wash soul sand, you get a, let's see where it is. We're going to have to find this one. You get nether quartz. at a 12% chance. Now, that's not as good as the process that we should have up, hang on, up quartz. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't find that, but yeah, the other way to get nether quartz is with a soul sand, run it into it has to be a mana steel mesh or a amethyst mesh to get an 80% chance on nether quartz. Or a little bit of nether work. Now, the math, you can do your math however you want to do your math as far as those go. I went ahead and just set this up because it was fun, and it does seem to work reasonably well. Anyhow, we're going to keep moving on down the line. So that's pretty much all the basic stuff that I can make out of the things that I have here. I could do a little bit more. There's another one or two things we can make with this, but I think for right now we're going to leave it alone. There's some other stuff that we can make as we get on a little bit further that I may or may not make. I haven't made up my mind yet just whether or not we're going to, but I guess we can keep on moving on. The next step, again, all of this is silly automated for other things, but the next step again is we need to be able to make lava. And I'm making lava using create, and it's a little slow because of the fact that the belt output for the cobblestone down there is slow, but we're waiting on some things to catch up. If you, again, here's one of those things about the basin. If you take a basin and you superheat it, let's just do it this way, lava. If you take a basin and you put cobblestone in it, or I think it's even stone or whatever, and then you hit it with a mixer and it's superheated as we've already got going, we make lava. Now, it's not amazing as far as how much lava you get because that's like 50 millibuckets and you could probably do it better, but that's a pretty quick, easy way to do it. Anyhow, especially considering that we have free cobblestone. And I might make this a little faster eventually anyway because it seems to kind of have an issue. Again, we feed cobblestone into the basin makes the lava then goes into this little tank over here, which is again being monitored by a stockpile switch, which we saw this other switch back there ways. That's so that we'll eventually be able to shut the cobblestone off. That is then sucked back out and put into a mechanical drying basin so that we can, come in, there you go, make, yes, you just barely see it. It makes the magma blocks or the magma whatever. Magma blocks is another one of those things where, do you really need to make it? No. Well, you could do this. This is another one of those things where you could do this a couple of different ways as far as the next step. In order to be able to make netherrack, that's how we're going to have to make netherrack. So netherrack, again, is the magma block in another drying basin cooled. So that's what this one is doing over here. Currently I have a couple of little things off, and this is where this gets a little annoying because drying basins, you can only pull things out of the bottom of them, so that kind of causes a little bit of a problem. Anyhow, we don't really need to worry about those. Essentially, I just want to make enough netherrack so later on down the line we can have a little bit of fun with it. The fun part about the netherrack is the fact that, well, netherrack, excuse me, magma blocks is you can make the obsidian from them. So obsidian, which this is really, really expensive on the lava, I know probably. Or maybe not. I don't know. It's a full bucket of however it works. But anyhow, if you want to make obsidian, I'll learn how to search these up quicker eventually. But anyhow, if you want to make obsidian, you toss a magma block in front of an encased fan that's got water in front of it to make obsidian. Now, that's completely break free, meaning I don't have to break the block in order to pick it up. And again, we've got redstone controlling stuff all over the place. And again, these two all need to kind of connect to the same thing. So it's all totally dependent on how quickly we can manage to make some things. And I do have a little bit of a valve in here in case I need it for whatever reason. So then we finally go to the next step again. Because of some shenanigans that exist with these things, I have to do some stuff a little bit odd. And I think I can move that drawer now, finally, now that that drained out. But again, this makes the netherrack, of which we should have a reasonable amount, I think, at this point, right? Maybe? Not very much. It hasn't gotten a chance point to it. Now, we're not going to crush the netherrack. We're not going to crush the netherrack and run it through a sieve. What we're going to do with the netherrack is, given the fact the only thing I want out of netherrack is going to either be the nether gold ore, nether quartz ore, and ancient debris. I can spell debris easier. This stuff. So we can get that through other means. We're going to be doing it with an orchid ignium just because this is a bit more of a guaranteed way of getting this stuff, because that thing has only got 3 things it can make. So the chances of it making anything are going to be gold ore, nether quartz ore, and ancient debris. That's how we're going to do it. I'm just going to hope that it's probably likely more to make more that direction than it would be if we were receiving crushed netherrack. So yeah, so with a amethyst mesh, you get a 10% chance on just one netherite scrap. Now, I understand that I get this by smelting this, but I have a feeling just by playing this thing so far, this is one of those ways. This is locked behind an event we're going to have to get done, and we'll have to start working on those fairly soon, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I just want to make a reasonable amount of it. So up until, I guess from here, that direction, all the way to there is just making raw resources that we'll be able to use later on. Now, this is when we get into the silly. This is when we start doing the other stuff. So this is where I put up my sifters, and this is also where we're auto-smelting the output of whatever comes out of those sifters. So we have a sifter for gravel, a sifter for dust, and since we had the ability to be able to make some stuff, I went ahead and made some mana meshes. And as you see, there's parts sitting in these things. The reason why there's parts sitting in these things is because the brass funnels on the back are limited, I think, to like 2 or 4 or something like that. Because of the speed at which these work, if you drop things out of it one at a time, it'll just take the first thing and dump it out onto the belt, and then the next thing and dump it out on the belt. And then you'll end up with a stack of a bunch of stuff at the very end that won't ever get removed. But if you set it to like, if I can get over here without getting stuck on the belt, what is it? I think we have like 6 or 2 or something. Then it'll wait until it has a couple of 2. Yep, we're going to get stuck on these. I need to change these out for chain drives. Good Lord, are they crazy. But anyhow, this mess back here is, well, we'll talk about that here. Essentially what happens is everything's like we turn a switch on over there and we push gravel into here. I guess we could go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and make a little bit of stuff so we can watch it work. You and you. And that'll start sending some more material out on the line over here, and we'll start sifting things. And as we notice, stuff comes out the back, it's dropped out over here, and it's immediately sorted by this brass funnel, which has an item filter, or a filter on it, looks about like so. That filter will allow me to designate what that thing can pick up. So then it picks up all of the stuff that's smeltable, puts it in this item vault, and waits until I get, what is it, about 4 or 5 or something like that, before it drops it out onto that belt. Now, this belt over here runs in underneath a lot of stuff talking with some lava. There are, don't get me to lying, 16? No, there are more than 16. There's, excuse me, can't say. There are 24 encased fans pointing at blocks of lava that are sitting over the top of this belt. And that belt is tuned to the point where if I put, I forget, it is like 4 or 8 or whatever we're doing. What are we doing? I forget now. 4 items. By the time those 4 items hit about right here, right about there on the line, they're smelted, period, no matter what. So we drop something on 4 items. 4 items come out here. And I could make this faster. I could make it longer or make it shorter or run a few things. But anyhow, so they come out and they go about to about right there, and they're smelted. So it takes less than 2 or 3 seconds to smelt 4 items at this point. Again, I could tune this up and make it work a little bit better and a little faster. And again, we're using a speed control here to kind of tune with things. I can play back and forth between this funnel and that speed control to get that belt running a little bit faster, but I kind of don't want to because I started to have a bleed. Plus, if I shut the game off and turn the game back on, I have a kind of a bleed off that happens. And it's just because the game has to recognize the fact that there's stuff back there getting smelted. It doesn't, so then it dumps the excess back out here, so it loops. But as we see, we're just kind of pushing stuff out on a belt. Anything that can get smelted goes that direction. I have a belt here in case or a box, in case I want to do some bulk smelting of other things. And then, of course, we run this all the way around to some area where we'll be able to build some stuff into the back of it. You got stuck up here again, you dingy. Into the back of our storage drawers that are going into a storage controller that'll allow us to kind of fiddle with some stuff and store things in a reasonable fashion finally. Now, I'm going to shut all this off because I don't need to be running those. We have plenty of things. This is an experiment. I'm not really certain how much we're going to be keeping with an experiment, but apparently you can make an iron farm with a mod that it's okay, and I suppose if I really needed a lot of iron, I would set this up, but this is the Easy Villagers mod, and you can kind of use them to do simple trading and farming. Like there's a farm right here. I can put if I grab you and put you in here with I don't know if I have a carrot in here or not. Potato. I do have a potato, and we'll talk about that again, but I can put that in here, and he'll auto farm for me just like that over time. It's not very fast, but it's all right. So, again, storage system. We're playing around with the the compacting drawers, the regular compacting drawers, and the storage controller. This system's a little different. You use linking tools and unlocking tools. In a linking tool, I can set it to a specific controller, and it will allow me to pick everything to a point I need to do that one. We've managed to get a few ender pearls and stuff like that, but yeah, it's just kind of the way it works. You sit in the nether for a couple of minutes, and you end up with a whole bunch of junk. But anyhow, so that'll allow me to link to this, and that is what we're drawing everything into. So this is... I don't know why you manage to get stuck on those all the times. But anyhow, this gets stuffed immediately into that compacting drawer controller. And whatever comes off the end, of course, we've got a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to need to smelt now. It's still running. It must have filled. Why is it still on? Hey. Off. Thank you. All that's going into a controller, and that is leading into one of the other fun things that if you do something with storage drawers or other stuff like that, if you leave one that's open unlocked, point it into a funnel, point it into a different kind of storage, for that matter, in this case, modular storage from Refined Storage, or RF Tools, excuse me, this allows us to kind of use this as our our miscellaneous storage. And this, we're getting on into the next thing that I haven't gotten to play with in a really long time, is the RF Tools storage mod. So we'll get into that really quickly. RF Tools, RF storage, just storage, which is a very simple, easy kind of a block system that allows you to do some fun stuff. The modular storage is, again, not very expensive, and for what it's worth, until you get to the last tier, which needs infused diamonds, which I don't really think I can. I mean, I guess I can make dimensional shards, and we could start figuring out how to get crushed endstone. But again, you're just kind of taking things, and this plus this plus this makes a reasonable amount of storage for really, really nice. And what's nice about them is they're searchable. If you use the storage scanner, which again, once we get some ender pearls and some parts and some machine frames, then you get to where you start to have a reasonable sized system. So I've got an extra one of these. I need to make a controller, a storage for it. But a storage scanner allows you to look around, and I've got a bunch of the stuff that has been removed. There's a remove button in here once you find it. It counts the it counts the conveyor belts as storages, so you end up with every single segment of storage around in the area. But yeah, so it can literally from right here see 20 blocks in every direction. So we're getting most of everything around in the area, plus all of that stuff sitting over on that wall. But what it allows you to do is connect various things like this, this, and this together into a section where I can play with. So this is generally going to be the first storage system that I used to like to play with back before, certain things happen, until we got things like simple storage or stuff like that. Now, it does require power, and I just made a hole in my floor, so I ran our power system over there. We're going to talk about the power here in just a second, and then next episode, we're probably going to go ahead and start working on making a lot more power. This is going to take way longer than I expected it to, because of the fact that this was many, many, many hours of building and tearing down and starting over and messing around with and understanding how to make it all work. So again, what this will allow us to do is basically it gives us a crafting grid system in here that allows us to craft whatever we want to craft out of all of the stuff that we have in batches or amounts. And then when I'm done with it, if I want to put something back in the system, say I grab a bunch of ender pearls, right? I can shove them back into the system using that thing right here, and as long as I keep the all routable inventories up and running, it will place it back where it belongs, or at least it should, instead of in here. Yeah. So this is our miscellaneous junk storage, and this is how this is. Well, and these are all of our bulk large storages, and the way that all goes. So very, very, very handy. Again, not very expensive, but it does require a small amount of power to do the work. We will be utilizing the modular storage, these portions of these, for our digital storage later on for Applied Energistics, because of the fact that certain things are fairly cheap that direction. Left that off. Anyhow, let's sleep. Okay, last little bit. Again, like I said, we had this little area over here of the things that I needed to do, and there is a thing over here that I guess I should say I'm getting prepared to play with a lot of bees, because we're going to need a special bee. We're going to need a bunch of special bees to be able to do the work. So I did make a spout, and a spout, essentially you just take something, and it doesn't require, well, it doesn't require power. The pump requires power, but a spout is how you can fill things. Spout. So you can fill bottles with it, essentially, is what I was kind of using it to do. And you just do the same old thing. You throw a bottle in a chest, bottle pops out, it fills whatever liquid it was having in there. I went ahead and processed an awful lot of honeycombs into honey, wherever this is. This little section right here, went and processed a whole bunch of that, and then made a whole bunch of bottles so that I could make a whole bunch of honey treats, because we need honey treats to do some stuff later on. And we ended up with a whole bunch of wax too, which is nice. Anyhow, I guess to finish, given the time and the amount of silliness that was going to go on, I was going to build 2 of those, and then I realized I could run 16 engines on that one boiler, and it's perfectly happy. So yeah, I had to get this out. Again, sorry for not kind of including you all in this. I had to get this out. I had to. It was just you once you learn a new mod, once you start playing with a new mod, and we're going to do more, there's going to be more stuff that's going to go over that way all the way around, but we need some things to show up, and we need to start playing with other mods to get those things to show up. So, and I'll probably rip these guys out. I was kind of fooling around with them just to see if there was anything in them worth a darn, and I may have to play with him just to get some stuff, but we're going to start fiddling with other mods, especially especially the stuff that's going to happen underneath there. So let's go take a look at this really quickly. What I have done, or at least what I decided we're going to do as far as general power, is we're going to use biofuel generators. I wasn't going to do this, and then I got to looking at it going, this is still cheap. This is still cheap. This is very simple, easy to do, and biofuel generators, they're very good about not burning a lot of biofuel. I mean, we've been sitting here talking. I made sure this was full before we left, and this is not really doing a whole lot. And again, those blaze burners, they don't use a lot either. In 21 minutes, they're going to burn a bucket. So it doesn't take a lot for the rest of this to work. And of course, you just kind of get bored and toss some leftover junk that you've got laying around. Like I can do this, and I mean, I guess I can even do that. And you just toss that junk in here, and it'll sit down and make some stuff. What we're going to do, like I said, is we're going to play with a couple of things. I am contemplating sitting down and playing an awful lot with some bees, but given the fact that we're not going to do it today. We're going to talk about it next time. Given the fact that I have another farm that's making like bone meal like crazy. So 8,000 bone meal is what we've got in there. I think we're going to use a Minecraft duplication thing, which everybody should know about. And if you don't, what did I do with the dirt? There it is. If we grab a stack of stuff, and if I show you some things, if you do something like this, if I take a double tall flower, so there are 4 double tall flowers here, right? If I do this and I hit it with a bone meal, it drops itself. And this is something that a lot of us know, and a lot of us kind of abused in Manufactio in the original. Well, we're going to abuse that this time too, because if I take this and I put this into a millstone, I'm going to get guaranteed 3 dye plus the occasional chance for 2 dye plus the occasional chance for a different color of dye. Now, across all of the double tall flowers, that is the way it works. In here, you'll get a different color of dye, and I mean, except for that matter here at use on you in a millstone again, you'll get a different color of dye. As long as we can manage to make 4 or 5 different things to keep this running, it will run at an efficiency right around like here. So that's really all I need. I mean, like here, I'll help him out a little bit. Right here, go. So now we're running an efficiency of 44%, plus anything else I decide to stuff into that thing on occasion. What we're going to do is we're going to automate that in the next episode using some really cool tools and some extra stuff. So I guess for now, I know I've been busy. Apologize. We're going to pop this one out. We're going to get that done. And the reason why I'm interested in doing that is because we're also going to start talking about bees. Now we need to start talking about bees. There's actually one that I want to use to probably automate that even better. So we'll talk about him once we get there. But that's going to take an awful lot of work to get stuff going because I have to do an awful lot of breeding and collecting and capturing of bees. So that will probably be next time, possibly. We'll see how it all goes. Anyhow, I just needed to get this out so I can kind of continue on building some more stuff. I kind of looked up and realized I had built an ungodly amount of stuff and didn't talk to you guys about it. So we shall see. Anyhow, I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.